over the years, the powerhouse, which is Stellantis, has been at the forefront of the electric revolution. With cars like the Corsa E, you also have the Peugeot e-3008, and even cars from other brands like Fiat with the Fiat 500e. But recently, other manufacturers, especially out of China, like MG and BYD, have started running the show. And Stellantis can't have that. With so many brands under their umbrella, they needed to come out with something impressive. Introducing one of the most important cars to have been launched by Stellantis in quite a while, the Peugeot e-3008. So why is this car so important? Well, it's now sitting on the new generation of both platform and featuring a new, larger battery. This car sits on the STLA medium platform, which will house many other cars in the future from Stellantis across all of their brands. And it has a battery of up to 98 kilowatts. That means that it can travel over 400 miles on one charge. Hi guys, I'm Tish and welcome back to my channel Auto Social UK. In today's video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know about this latest generation of Peugeot. So if that sounds good, then please keep watching. And if you like new car reviews and car content like this, then this is the place to be. Go ahead and hit the subscribe button. Although it's the big battery which is grabbing the headlines, the initial offering of the Peugeot e-3008 is a 73 kilowatt-hour model with an official range of 326 miles, which is the one that I'm driving today. The range still suppresses the capabilities of most entry-level versions of its competitors. The model features a single 207 brake horsepower motor which powers the front wheels. In the following year, a slightly more powerful 228 brake horsepower long-range version will be introduced. It will come with that larger 98 kilowatt-hour battery and a promised range of 435 miles. Additionally, a range-topping model with dual motors and four-wheel drive, delivering 316 brake horsepower will also be introduced around the same time. The new range will also include non-electric options, such as the 1.2-litre petrol model starting at £35,000 and a plug-in hybrid model in the pipeline. Of course, when it comes to those range figures, we do have to take them with a pinch of salt, and I am a little bit sceptical as to whether this car will be able to achieve those figures. Let's face it, when Stellantis first launched their first generation of cars, they had around 190 to 200 miles, but they'd only achieve around 100. Then they made a few efficiency changes and it eked out about another 30 miles and they were able to do around 150 miles, but still never the claimed 200. And then the new generation of battery came along and they are now much more efficient. They seem to have learnt from their mistakes, but they're still not hitting those figures that they're claiming, and that leaves customers a little bit disappointed. I'd rather that they knocked off 50 miles and it achieved it than they put those 50 miles in there, you bought it as a long-range model, and then it just doesn't live up to your expectations. What I find a little bit suspicious is the fact that the Kia EV9, despite being a bigger car, has a very similar battery setup, and they claim much less range from their models. And I know which brand I'm a bit more confident in. But I guess it is a bit unfair of me to judge before I've let them put the money where the mouth is. Unfortunately, our drive today is nowhere long enough to come to a firm conclusion, so I look forward to testing it when they come to the UK. But Peugeot did assure us that they're aiming at best-in-class efficiency, due to many tweaks, but also its leading aerodynamics, which contributes to an impressive claimed efficiency of 4.47 miles per kilowatt-hour on the WLTP cycle. Interestingly, Peugeot have opted to make the heat pump an option for the UK, claiming that these new efficiency tweaks make it more of a luxury rather than a necessity. Like I said, we shall see. When it comes to the Peugeot e-3008, the range may be uncertain, but one thing we can rely on is their expertise when it comes to designing interiors. Unlike rivals from Tesla and Volvo, Peugeot have built a sculpted and driver-focused cabin. All models also get a large two-screen setup on top of the dashboard. Due to the classically low-set steering wheel, you look over it at the two screens, which sit just below your eye line into the road. Whilst most things, including the climate control, are accessed via the touchscreen, there are 2 layers of eye toggles that help immensely when moving around at ease. And the added haptic buttons on the centre console help with quick climate actions. The steering wheel mounted controls hold the all-important functions like cruise control and volume, and you'll also locate the driver select toggle and the on button slightly behind the steering wheel next to the eye toggles. The seats are high quality and comfortable, plus there's plenty of storage and you can nicely hide things away, including the USB and C ports out of sight. The stunningly ambient lighting also adds something above and beyond when driving at night. When it comes to car design, it will always come down to personal preference. But you know my personal preference? I think Peugeot are killing it. They're daring to be bold with their styling, and it's making even premium brands like Audi and BMW look a little bit silly. One of my favourite features is, of course, this melting front grille, and it works towards the now larger Peugeot badge. You also have this black strip along the centre of the car, and that's featured on all versions of the model. The headlamps, as you can see, they sit underneath the bonnet, and it gives the car that mean look. And of course, you've got those iconic lion slashes, which look fantastic at night and give this car a real presence. It's instantly recognisable as a Peugeot. Now, the alloy wheels. The alloy wheels on Peugeots have been getting pretty busy nowadays. Whether you like that or not, I'm not too sure. I do worry about refurbishments and practicality. It also rides on some pretty massive wheels. This version on the GT are 20 inches, and that gives you a pretty thrashy ride. Go for a smaller wheel, and they don't quite fill the wheel arches quite as nicely as these do. But in my personal preference, I'd go for a smaller wheel and have a better ride. Like many SUVs nowadays, it features a coupe roofline, but in our design class, Peugeot was sure to point out that they haven't eaten into any of the headroom when it comes to that roof design. And the way they've done that is they've started it quite far back. So they haven't started that tapered roof until you get past the headroom in the back. It has quite the design on the rear. I think this is going to be kind of more divisive than the front of the car. It's very high up. You have this slight spoiler that it ends in, but then you have a very flat end. You also have quite a large piece of black gloss at the bottom. But if you don't go for the GT car, then that is just the plastic, like is featured on the 408. And I know that that is very controversial. A lot of people don't like that. In the gloss black, I think it looks good, but I would need to see it in a lower spec trim to make my mind up. But otherwise, you've of course, once again, got those iconic lights, which do once again at night make it look very iconically Peugeot. Inside of this boot, which is a little bit difficult to get into at first, it's kind of underneath this part here, you will get 520 litres of space, which is really competitive. I can't see you needing much more space than this. Despite the really high boot line, you also get quite a nice load area. It's kind of at waist height, so putting items in and out should be nice and simple. An electric boot is also definitely a nice added bonus. When it comes to practicality, it impresses where it counts in the rear of a family car. It has decent legroom and you can comfortably accommodate adults. The flat floor in the back adds to convenience. However, it is worth noting that the centre console between the 2 front seats slightly reduces the available legroom for the middle rear passenger. In terms of headroom, this GT spec car with the standard panoramic glass roof may not be as impressive as some competitors. However, anyone under 6 foot will be more than comfortable. If you've driven any other electric products from Peugeot, then this is going to feel very familiar. Of course, you've got that little nimble steering wheel, which gives you a slight go-kart feel despite this car's size. But let's talk about size, because the Peugeot e-208 and e-308 are known for having quite sporty, sharp handling. This, however, is not quite so precise. It rolls a bit more and you can feel its weight. But of course you're going to. This car weighs is nearly 2.1 tonnes, so it's heavy, and it doesn't do that well in hiding that. But maybe it's also the fact that I do have those larger 20-inch alloy wheels, and it gives it a slightly firm and quite crashy ride. Personally, I'd go for some slightly smaller tyres, and I don't think this would be quite as apparent. If you want a super soft drive, then maybe you could wait for this same battery technology but from the Citroën brands, because they have a more wafty feel about their driving. This of course does have the slightly sportier steering wheel setup. Despite being quite light, you can pop it in sport and it weights it up quite a lot and makes it a lot more engaging. But you're not going to expect that nimble drive that you get from the 208. It is a much more family car orientated setup. It starts at £45,850, which is a big chunk of money for a French car maker, but the e-3008 is actually quite competitively priced when compared to other similar electric vehicles. It falls in line with the Tesla Model Y and the Kia EV6, and it's only slightly more expensive than the Volkswagen ID4 and the Hyundai Ioniq 5. In fact, the top specification versions of those cars are pricier than the top spec of the Peugeot. The Peugeot e-3008 came with some really high expectations. It needed to be a good car to launch the new generation of long-range models for Stellantis. And I'm really pleased to say that mostly this car has exceeded my expectations. It really does have the styling and premium materials that you expect from the class above. It really is now rolling with the big boys like Audi and BMW, and even offering probably a slightly more premium product than them brands are now producing. But let me know, what do you guys think of the new Peugeot e-3008? Is it good enough to now be the halo product from Stellantis? Pop it in the comments down below. I also would really love to test out that efficiency on a long-range test, because let's face it, Stellantis don't always have the best track record when it comes to efficiency, and they're claiming some really high figures for this car. So if you do want to see a video like that in the future, then make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you've enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up. Let me know all your thoughts and feelings on this car in the comments down below. And until next time, guys, see you later.